You may have already watched Evil Dead Rise. But have you ever imagined what you would do to beat the demons in this film? Relax. In this video we will highlight the mistakes and discuss the best decisions that would definitely help the characters or you to get out of this alive. So leave a like, grab your popcorn, and let's get to the video. After finding out she's pregnant, Beth decides to seek help from her sister, Ellie. Ellie is a tattoo artist and a mother of 3 kids: Bridget, the goth girl, Danny, the DJ, and little Cassie, who has a peculiar fascination with cutting off doll heads. Ellie tells the kids to go buy pizza for dinner while she talks to Beth about her divorce. However, when they come back, an earthquake shakes the whole building. Danny decides to check out a crack caused by the earthquake, but, as Bridget warned, it wasn't a good idea to go into that hole, as there could be more earthquakes even though the chance was slim. Besides, the building seemed old, and its structure could be weak, increasing the risk of collapse. The youngsters should have stayed close to a car, preferably under it, to avoid getting hit by debris from the building, and at that moment, the safest option was to get out of the garage and go outside to avoid the risk of being buried. Danny noticed that the crack led to what seemed to be an old bank vault, and while investigating some boxes, he found extremely old items dating back to 1923, including a photo of priests holding a book and some vinyl records he planned to listen to later. As he rummaged through the place, Danny heard noises and got scared by a statue. Later, he noticed several rosaries and crucifixes hanging over what seemed to be a tomb. Inside it, he found a mysterious package, and curious, Danny opened it. Meanwhile, Ellie was worried about her kids who weren't answering calls and had been missing since the earthquake. Fortunately, the kids returned, and Ellie, ecstatic to see her children, warned them about the dangers of using the elevator after an earthquake. Back home, Danny showed the book he found to Bridget, hoping it might be valuable since it was an ancient relic. The boy tried to open the book, but the cover seemed stuck. However, when he got injured by what seemed like claws, the book mysteriously opened. It contained several disturbing illustrations, and Bridget immediately closed it, ordering Danny to put it back in the tomb. But when she left, he decided to open the book again to continue exploring its content. Okay, it seems like Danny didn't think much about the consequences of his discoveries, since the religious objects and the bugs coming out of the package indicated something bad related to the book and the tomb. So it would have been safer to leave everything as it was, since the objects seemed to be there to protect against something evil. Moreover, bringing the book home thinking it was valuable wasn't a very smart idea, because if it were valuable, the owner wouldn't have left it in a vault for so long. It's possible that the owner left the book there on purpose to avoid trouble. After all, the book has drawings of demons and spirits, and the fact that the book only opened when it came into contact with blood suggests a possible connection to evil. After examining the book, Danny started listening to the vinyl records, where a church member, gathered with everyone in the synagogue, reveals to have found one of the 3 volumes of the Naturum de Monto, the Book of the Dead, made of human skin and written in blood. Danny thought it was a good idea to keep listening to the next record. The same man, with the help of a priest, began translating the symbols, and the book started moving on its own. Danny tried to stop the playback several times, but a supernatural force prevented him, and his mom, who was taking the elevator to the laundry room, was attacked by a spirit. Despite efforts to survive, the entity pinned her limbs, causing severe injuries, and took possession of Ellie, resulting in a blackout throughout the building. When Danny listened to the first record, the extent of the problem he had gotten himself into became clear, and it wasn't necessary to listen to the second one. If it were me, I would have taken immediate action to deal with the cursed book, like burning it or throwing it back into the hole where I found it, and I would have destroyed the records to prevent someone from releasing the evil contained in them. As for when the device started reciting the invocation, instead of trying to pull the record, Danny could have disconnected it from the power or even damaged the equipment with some object object. As for Ellie, unfortunately, she couldn't have avoided the encounter with the entity because she knew nothing about it. However, if she had followed her own advice not to use the elevator after an earthquake, she probably would have been safer, since elevators, especially in old buildings, can easily collapse after an earthquake. While everyone was worried about what happened, Bridget saw her mom enter the house in a strange and silent manner. Meanwhile, Ellie briefly regained consciousness, mentioning that something was inside her, and then fell to the ground, writhing disturbingly and vomiting abnormally. Beth and Danny tried to take Ellie to the hospital, but the elevator was out of service and the stairs collapsed during the earthquake. Okay, without access to stairs and elevators in an emergency like this, the group could have improvised a rope with sheets to lower someone to the lower level, which seemed to be a relatively short distance. And even if it were longer, it would still be possible to descend, although riskier. With that, they could have lowered all the children and instructed them to run to the police station, fire department, or any well-lit place to seek help. As for Danny, he knew what was going on and should have shared that information with the others as soon as possible before it was too late. Beth believed her sister was lifeless. However, Ellie wakes up with a high body temperature, and with not many options, Beth puts Ellie in a bathtub with cold water to lower her temperature, which was a terrible decision because even if she had a fever, instead of being possessed by the demon, putting her in cold water wouldn't have been a sensible choice. This could result in a thermal shock, raising her heart rate and potentially leading to serious complications. Ellie jumps on the bathroom ceiling, letting out a scream that echoed throughout the building. Later, she starts attacking everyone, and Bridget orders the creature to stop, but it moves towards her and contaminates the girl using its blood. Danny manages to save his sister, but one of the neighbors is attacked by Ellie. Beth seized this opportunity to close the door, and peeking through the peephole, witnessed the tragic fate of the other residents being swiftly eliminated by the demon. Gabriel's arrival ended up serving as a distraction for the demon, allowing Beth to close the door, and in this situation, the best strategy would have been to barricade the door with heavy objects to prevent the monster from opening it. However, the creature apparently didn't possess supernatural strength, suggesting that maybe it could be confronted physically. After witnessing the death of all the other residents, Beth tried to call for help through the window, but the only person on the street seemed not to notice her anguished cries. However, she could have thrown some object to catch his attention. Meanwhile, Bridget realized that her mother was beginning to resemble the illustrations in the book and started arguing with Danny, who decided to confess what he did and about the book. Meanwhile, Bridget went to the bathroom to clean the wound on her face, but she noticed a dark and strange stain spreading, and then a liquid began to drip from her eyes, mouth, and nose. She also seemed possessed. And started attacking everyone, but little Cassie inadvertently impaled her in the head with a broken broom handle. Okay, the demons that possessed Ellie and Bridget in mythology are called Deadites. They are considered parasitic spirits that feed on the souls of mortals and subsequently possess their bodies in various ways, including contact with infected blood, which explains Bridget's possession. And considering that Ellie awakened after her death, it is highly likely that Bridget will also awaken, so the best choice would be to securely tie the girl's body. However, they just covered her with a cloth. Then, Beth asked her nephew to listen to the vinyl records. She listens to the third record to understand how to exorcise the Deadites, but she discovers that the priest failed, and his allies were all possessed. The priest then decided that he needed to eliminate them to prevent the disease from spreading even further. During this time, as expected, Bridget awakens. And fatally attacks Danny, who sets Bridget on fire before dying, while Ellie infiltrates the apartment using the ventilation openings and attacks Beth. However, before anything more terrible happens to her aunt, Cassie throws scissors in her direction, temporarily neutralizing the demon. The two then run down the hallway trying to break down the door to access the fire exit. Okay, although Bridget and Ellie are part of the family and everyone feels affection for them, the previous experience with Bridget, who awakened from death, should have alerted them that they were not completely defeated, and it would have been wiser to throw them out the window or lock them in a room, since the demons, despite their supernatural abilities, were not strong enough to knock down doors. But forget about that, because Beth, realizing she couldn't break the door lock, chooses to grab a shotgun from one of the neighbors to shoot him. However, the escape attempt is interrupted when Ellie approaches quickly. At this moment, all those who had been killed return as possessed, including Danny and Bridget, who approach their mother's body and begin to merge with her, forming a hideous creature. The monstrosity begins to proclaim that everyone will die before dawn, and fearing for her niece's life, Beth drags Cassie into the elevator and tries to descend. But the place starts to fill with tomato juice, and the demon enters the ventilation, climbing to the top of the elevator in a desperate attempt to reach its prey. However, the excess weight causes the elevator to plummet. Beth and her niece manage to escape unharmed, and they run to the car, but the tire gets stuck in a hole caused by the earthquake, allowing the demon to approach, but they manage to get out of the car before he reaches them. Beth tries to reach the gate, but it starts to close rapidly, and the demon grabs Cassie's leg. Determined, Beth kicks the gates while the demon takes Cassie to a truck where he finds a chainsaw. Beth manages to get in and shoots the demon to distract it. However, the creature throws the chainsaw at Beth, making her fall to the ground. The demon tries to pull her into a shredder, but Cassie turns off the machine in time. Beth then grabs the chainsaw and pushes the demon into the shredder, instructing the girl to turn on the machine, causing tomato sauce to squirt all over the parking lot, putting an end to the demon, or not, since the next day, while Jessica was planning a weekend at the lake with her cousin, she is attacked by an invisible force. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and share in the comments how you would defeat this film. And if you love horror films and don't want to miss the next videos, subscribe, and see you next time.